Can you imagine living without social media? Just because you're under 16, can you imagine one day you wake up, you're about to do your TikTok, and you are banned? You're blocked. Indonesia just banned TikTok for kids. They banned it. Starting March 28th, less than 3 weeks away, if you're under 16 in Indonesia, your accounts on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Roblox gets deactivated. Why are they banning Roblox as well? That's a little insane, isn't it? Roblox is like a virtual playgrounds where kids will be hanging out with their friends. Wouldn't kids just use a VPN? I'm a Korean-American creator based in New York. I grew up between Korean culture and American culture, and I cover what's happening across Southeast Asia. What Indonesia just did is something neither Korea nor America has tried. Imagine you're 15. You live in Jakarta. For the last 3 years, you've been posting comedy sketches on TikTok, short videos, relatable humor about being a teenage girl in Indonesia. You build a following, a few 100,000 people who watch your stuff, show up for you every week. Last year, brand deals started coming in. Not huge money, but real money. Enough to help your family. On March 28th, your accounts get deactivated. 3 years of content, your audience, your income, your creative identity, gone. Here's the full picture. The young creator industry is $11 billion industry. Indonesia's digital economy is worth over $100 billion. A lot of young people turn to content creation, not as a hobby, but as a career. For some families, a teenage creator isn't an anomaly. Asking kids in elementary school their dream job to have when they become an adult, the majority of the teenagers were writing down that they want to be a content creator or a social media influencer when they grow up. Parents in Jakarta are welcoming this ban, and not without reason. UNICEF data shows that roughly half of Indonesian children surveyed had been exposed to harmful sexual content online. Online gambling platforms have specifically targeted teenagers. Parents shouldn't have to fight this algorithm giant alone. From their perspective, choosing to keep social media out of child early year is increasingly seen as to protect their analog development, protection of imagination muscle. When a child is bored, doesn't have a screen to provide instant entertainment, their brain is forced to innovate. Without the infinite scroll, kids are more likely to pick up a book, build with blocks, or even invent games. Many societies use social media as a free digital babysitter. It kept kids quiet at dinner, occupied in the car, and entertained at home. Kids are not listening to their parents. Kids are not listening to their uncles. Like Uncle Leo right here. Kids are not listening to Uncle Leo. So we have to do something about it. Every teenager in Indonesia is already Googling. Wouldn't kids just use a VPN? The difficulty teenagers face in quitting social media isn't just about a lack of willpower. It's the result of biological mismatch between developing brain and highly sophisticated technology. The teenage brain is essentially a high-powered sports car with a brand renew engine. My brain feels like an old engine. I cannot survive without my coffee. This part of the brain is reward center. During adolescence age, it is hypersensitive to dopamine, the chemical that makes us feel good. Likes, comments, and views act as rapid-fire dopamine hits. This area is responsible for impulse, control, planning, and understanding long-term consequences. It doesn't finish developing until around age 25. The result? A 15-year-old brain is biologically wired to seek the immediate social reward or a viral post, while the part of their brain that should say, I should go to sleep for my exam tomorrow, is still under construction. They are engineered using intermittent reinforcement, the same psychological principle that makes slot machine addictive. You don't get a hit every time you scroll, which is exactly why you keep scrolling. The anticipation of the next great video or notification keeps the brain in a constant state of seeking. Infinite scroll and autoplay. By removing stopping cues, like the end of a page or a chapter, the app exploits a psychological state called bottomless bowl syndrome, where people consume far more than they intended because there is no natural pause to reflect on. To a teen, logging off can feel like a social suicide. Yeah, that happened to me a lot too, right? Like even in college, like it's 1 a.m. I need to sleep because I have a final tomorrow, and my brain monkey is like, hey, what if you do something else? And I get it. I've been there. Like, Addiction is a problem. The government has three realistic options for enforcing an age-based social media ban. Option 1. Age verification by ID. Platforms require users to upload a government ID. Indonesia has a documented history of major government data leaks. In 2021, over 270 million records from the National Health Database were exposed. You are now asking millions of teenagers to hand their identity documents to Meta, Google, and ByteDance, and trusting that nobody misuses it. The privacy risk is real. Option 2. AI facial age estimation. You look into your phone. An algorithm estimates your age. If you look over 16, you're in. These systems are notoriously inaccurate. Option 3. This is one almost nobody is talking about. Everyone is asking about VPNs right now. Can kids just use a VPN? Probably. But here's the option the government hasn't ruled out. It's called IMEI blocking. Your phone has a unique hardware identification number built into the device itself. It's called IMEI number. Every phone has one. It never changes. If the government mandates IMEI blocking, if they can tell platform and networks to blacklist that hardware ID, then a VPN doesn't help you. Because the block isn't on your internet connection. It's not on your account. It's on your actual phone. The phone itself gets blacklisted. Here's what actually happens on March 28. Family A, Jakarta Finance District. Wealthy family Jakarta dad works in finance. Mom runs a business. Their 15-year-old gets a premium VPN, costs about as much as 1 meal out. Zero impact. Life continues. Family B, smaller city, one income. Public school, their kid tries to look up VPNs, run into a paywall or a setup they don't understand. No tech-savvy uncle to walk them through it. Their kid just loses access to it. Family A's kid, still online. Family B's kid, no. Here's what this ban creates. A mechanism, a legal and technical infrastructure that requires platforms to deactivate accounts when the Indonesian government requests it. That mechanism now exists. It has been negotiated. It is being tested. What it gets used for in the future depends entirely on who is in power and what they decide to protect people from. Here is context that matters. This isn't ancient history. In the months before this ban was announced, Indonesia went through a significant political moment. Protests, reports of people being arrested for posting online commentary, platforms pressure to hand over user data from people who live-stream demonstrations. In May 2025, a student was arrested for posting a satirical meme involving the president. I'm sure your nephews are doing that too. TikTok temporarily suspended its national live-stream feature during the protests, citing safety concerns. Critics called it anticipatory compliance. I'm showing you those dots. I'm not drawing the line between them for you. What I will say is this. Digital rights organizations across Southeast Asia are watching this ban very carefully. Not because the child protection goal is illegitimate, it isn't, but because the infrastructure being built is dual-use infrastructure. As a system that can deactivate accounts based on age can be repurposed. The question of whether it will be is political question, not a technical one. Malaysia has already announced a similar ban for 2026. The Philippines is watching. India's Karnataka state is considering its own version. Indonesia may be writing the regional template right now. Same starting point. Kids on their phones too much. Addiction, distraction, parents worried, government deciding to act. Completely different solution. The deep reality is that the attention economy is now a matter of national security. A nation whose youth cannot focus for more than 15 seconds is a nation that cannot innovate, compete, or defend itself. Korea did not ban social media accounts. Korea banned phones in classrooms during school hours. Your phone goes into a box or a teacher's desk. You get it back when class ends. TikTok still exists. Instagram still exists, just not during the specific hours when you're supposed to be learning. South Korea's phone-in-the-box approach treats the phone as a tool that has a time and place, and it's an exercise in discipline. A blanket ban treats the phone as toxic substance. It's an exercise in prohibition. History shows that prohibition rarely teaches moderation. It only teaches people how to hide their habits. By the time these kids turn 16 or 18, the ban lifts. They will enter digital world with zero immunity to the algorithm, likely making them more vulnerable than if they had been coached through it earlier. There are mirrors. Korea is afraid of falling behind. Indonesia is afraid of being corrupted. Different fears, different policies. When a government bans a platform for a specific age groups, it is an admission that the education and family systems have failed to digital literacy. But we rarely talk about why teens are there in the first place. In many modern cities, the third space, the physical places that aren't home and aren't school, has vanished. Malls are closing. Parks are often designed for young children or adults, with no loitering signs for teens. Public transport is often inadequate for minors to travel independently. The uncomfortable truth: we have spent decades designing physical worlds that exclude teenagers, forcing them into digital worlds. A platform ban without an investment in analog youth infrastructure is essentially digital solitary confinement. The algorithm that created the problems, still running. The advertising model that profits from the children's attention, still running. Korea hid the phone during class. Indonesia locked your cup. Neither country looked the algorithm in the face and said, "That's what we're actually regulating." Korea and Indonesia are reacting to the smoke, but nobody is looking at the fire. The deep, uncomfortable truth is that a ban on TikTok or a phone in the box in the classroom doesn't touch the intent of the code. There's a biological phenomenon researchers are calling popcorn brain. Constant digital stimulation makes your brain pop with dopamine, making it nearly impossible to engage with the slow real world. Neither a ban nor a box fixes the fact that we have allowed companies to build neurological traps. Indonesia is trying to keep the outside out, but the algorithm is already inside the wiring of how these kids think. Here is the part people don't want to hear. Attention is the new oil. Right now, we are in the digital scramble for Africa, where tech giants are colonizing the attention of the youth because the attention can be mined for data and sold for ads. When a country like Indonesia issue a total ban, they aren't just protecting kids, they're attempting to renationalize their citizens' attention. They're saying, you can't mine our children's brain for profit anymore. The reason no government has looked into the algorithm in the face is because the algorithm is the economy. We've spent 20 years arguing about what we see online. We're just now realizing we should have been arguing about how the thing is being done for us. If Indonesia succeeds, we aren't just looking at a ban. We're looking at the balkanization of the internet. For 30 years, the dream was a World Wide Web. Western teens will continue to be the R&D subject for Silicon Valley's newest, most aggressive algorithm. The big risk? In 10 years, will the protected kids have better attention spans but lower digital fluency? Or will the Wild West kids be so neurologically fried that they cannot compete with the focused workers? When the government deactivates these accounts, they are performing a digital lobotomy. They are erasing years of creativity, social connections, and proof of existence. We know what happens when you ban something people crave. It goes to black market. These kids will move from moderated platforms to the dark web or unencrypted shadow web, just to talk to their friends. We're placing them in a more dangerous algorithm every day. So I'm asking you something specific. If you're Indonesian, is this protecting you or taking something from you? Not a rhetorical question I generally want to hear. Drop it in the comments. I read them. If you're in Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, your governments are watching Indonesia right now. If they try this, what do you want them to do differently? What would a version of this look like that you'd actually trust? If Indonesia pulled this off, if platforms comply, if enforcement holds, if teenagers actually stay off these apps, how many countries follow? Malaysia is already moving. India is watching, Philippines, Vietnam. We could look at a Southeast Asia where the under 16 internet looks completely different from the rest of the world within 2 years. Does it work? Do addiction numbers drop? Does that mental health data improve? This is a live experiment. Thanks everyone. Please like and subscribe.